Let's go ahead and get started in an all fours position. Hands are underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips in a cat-cow. We'll inhale, poke your tailbone out behind you, look up toward the ceiling. And we'll exhale, tuck your tailbone underneath you, bring your chin to your chest. Inhale opens you up. And exhale, you round back. Inhale to arch. And exhale, round. Again, inhale, arch. Exhale, round. Last time, looking up. And round. Come on back to center. And now we're going to kind of do the same cat-cow open-close idea, but now side to side. So bring your shoulder and your hip on one side closer together. Come on back to center. Switch over to the other side. Shoulder and your hip together. And then over to the other side. One more. And come back to neutral position. Next, you're going to go ahead and open your left arm up toward the ceiling. Reach toward the ceiling. Then you'll take your left hand to your left shoulder, square off your shoulders to the ground, drop your elbow down to the ground, and then sit your hips back until you find a stretch in your lats. On your next inhale, go ahead and open it back up to the ceiling. You might notice a little more room this time. And then plant your left hand down on the ground. Open up your right hand up toward the ceiling. Inhale as you put your right hand on your right shoulder. Square your shoulders off. Elbow comes down toward the ground. Sink your hips back toward your heels. Find a stretch in your shoulder. On your next inhale, plant your hands. Spin open toward the ceiling. And come on down to center. From here, go ahead and sit your hips back in a child's pose. You can take your knees further apart if you'd like, up to you. Big breath in and a big breath out. Go ahead and walk your hands over to one side. Again, inhaling and exhaling. And other side. Inhaling in and out. Coming on back to center and back up to all fours. You're going to go ahead and step your left foot up by your left hand. Take a second to settle here. Wiggle around. And when you're ready, go ahead and start to move your hips back, straightening into your front leg. If this feels really far away, you can come up like this, or you can leave your hands down on the ground, up to you, and then sink forward again. Pulling back, and sinking forward, and pulling back. This time, as you push forward, press into your left foot, your right hand, and your right toes. Pick your knee up off the ground. Spin open. If this is too much for you, you can leave your your knee down on the ground. And then go ahead and come back to center. Forward and back again. And then let's come back to neutral, all fours position. Next, the right hand's going to come up by the right foot's going to come by the right hand. I can say words, it's fine. Take a second to get comfy here. And then start shifting your hips back and forth. Again, raising up or bending your knee a little less, if that is where you're at today. Just notice where you are and meet yourself there. If you show up regularly, it'll improve. So don't be too hard on yourself if you don't like where you're at today. Last time, let's shift back. And then as you shift forward, let's plant into your right hand, right foot, left hand, left toes. Spin your right hand up toward the ceiling. A little reach, get long across the collarbones. You can leave your knee down if you'd like, up to you. And then when you're ready, sink back down, extend your hips out and forward. And then you'll come back to center. From here, in all fours, you're going to tuck your toes, press your hips up toward the ceiling, pedal your feet out a few times. And then let's come up onto your toes, roll it forward until our shoulders are over our hands. And you're going to go ahead and come down into a cobra type position. So that might be sort of an ungainly flop as you get down here, and then you find that position where you're going to put your stomach on the ground, press into your hands, pick your shoulders up. Don't need to straighten your arms. You can even keep your elbows bent if you'd like. Just, again, meet yourself wherever feels good. Once you find a position that feels good, just shift from side to side, wiggle around. And then go ahead and sit your hips back toward your heels. Make your way up to downward dog. From here, pick your right foot up. Shin comes toward your hands. Set yourself down on the ground. If this feels really tight and uncomfortable, sit on a block or lift yourself up a little higher. Or you can bring your heel really close to your hips. Once you get settled there, just go ahead and fold over your front leg. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. On your next inhale, go ahead and come up. Plant your hands. If you'd like to just take a slow mosey back to that downward facing dog, you can feel free. Or you can plant the toes of your extended leg, plant your hands, pick your leg up, step back in one big movement. Up to you. Pedal out your feet. And then pick up your left foot and bring your left shin toward your hands. Settling down here, you might be a little tighter on one side than the other, that's fine. Wiggle around until you find a place that feels good. And when you're ready, exhale forward over your leg. You can put your forehead on the ground or stack your hands or stay on your elbows. Figure out where you need to be and put yourself there. Deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. On your next inhale, go ahead and make your way back up. Plant your hands. If you'd like to scooch out of this one, you can feel free, or you can plant your hands, press into your toes, coming on back straight into a downward dog. Pedal out your feet. Let's go ahead and find Cobra again. If you don't like that rolling forward, you can come into all fours. Slowly or in an ungainly fashion, lower yourself down to the ground, get settled here. You can plant your hands under your shoulders or your elbows. You're just going to peel your upper body off the ground just a little bit or a lot, depending on where you're at today. Once you find a place that feels good, you can wiggle around. Look up toward the ceiling or up side to side. And then go ahead and release yourself back down to the ground. Next, we're going to come back into a child's pose, scooting yourself back. And as you inhale, go ahead and come up to seated. Next, we're going to get into a hip 90-90. So, easiest way to get into this to start. Put your hands out behind you. Feet are going to be out in front of you. A little wider than maybe you normally would keep your feet. And then you're just going to go ahead and let your knees fall over to one side, back to center, and then over to the other side. If this feels comfortable, you can keep extending your knees closer and closer to the ground until maybe they reach. Maybe they don't, and you feel really cramped up and just uncomfortable. If that's the case, you can stay back here and just rock back and forth. Or if you feel good, you can place your knees down on the ground. If you'd like to make this position a little easier, you can bring your heels a little closer to your hips so you're a little more underneath yourself. And then nice and slow, we're gonna roll from one side to the other. It can be really tempting here to lean forward to make it easier, or just get into your hips and flail from side to side, but that does you a disservice. Go ahead and slow down. Don't rush through the position. If you can't control the position, that usually means you need to spend some extra time there. So if you need to spend some extra time there, go ahead and let yourself. Let's do a couple more. If you want to see what this looks like from the side, I'll go ahead and move. You don't need to have your hands up and flailing like mine are. I'm just trying to keep them out of the way. Last one. And come back to center. Next, we're going to go ahead and lay down on our back, flail ourselves over like a little pancake, and come to lay on our stomach. So this is called a prone W that we're about to do here. Important thing to note here is we're not looking to hyperextend into our low back. That's going to be priority 1 of this exercise. Step 1, you're just going to brace your core a little bit. Think brace your abdomen, squeeze your butt. Extend your arms out and overhead. You'll draw your chin back away from the ground a little bit, just so you're not breathing in the carpet, but not picking your head up to look straight forward. You see how then I'm going to arch into my back, and that's not super helpful. So draw your chin back a little bit, brace your core, arms are extended. Next, you're going to pick your arms up. Think lifting, not crazy high, but getting really, really long and keeping tension in your arms. Next, you're going to bend your elbows, draw them down your sides, keeping your shoulders in the same place, and then extending out and overhead. Again, drawing back, staying checked in with your core, with your rib position. Try not to let your ribs flare or collapse, keeping everything nice and stacked. Extend your arms out and overhead, and draw them back. Extend out and overhead. If you need to drop and take a break, you can feel free at any point. But if this feels pretty doable, we're just going to keep extending for 3 more. And last one. Very nice. Next, go ahead and come back into a standing position this time. Exciting. And we're going to work on pelvis positioning in a lunge. Let's not make this scary. Step 1, we're just going to stagger our feet. We'll start here. If this is where you feel good, this is where you'll stay for the next round. We'll do 2 rounds. If you feel, we'll add on to it for the second round if you feel like you need it. Bend your knees just a little bit. So not full lunge, just a little bit soft. Hands are going to be on your hips. Thinking back to that side-to-side shifting that we did before when your hips were moving. We're going to try and play around with that. So hands on your hips, knees are soft. Push one hip up toward your armpit and back to center. And other hip up and back to center. If this feels super weird, yes. Back to center, up, and back to center. If you need a break, you can always come out, but I'm going to stay down here a couple more on this side. Think about this as one hip at a time instead of both. We really want to focus on your positioning here more than anything else, as everything else, strength-wise, comes with awareness of our bodies. Last hike here. Good. Step forward, and then other side. So feet are staggered, bend your knees a little bit, just enough that you kind of have some bounce in your body. Hands on your hips, hip comes up and down. Other hip up and down. One side might feel easier than the other. If that's the case, then that's fine. Let's do 3, 2, and 1. Back to center and step forward. If this is confusing the absolute hell out of you, you can always just try this standing up. See if you can get into what your hips are doing and see if that helps. Regardless though, we're gonna go ahead and come down to do our prone W again. We'll try the other thing again, so if you were like, what the hell was that? Don't worry, you'll get another chance. Laying on your stomach, brace your core, squeeze your butt, lift your chin back, extend your arms, pick your arms up. Tension the whole time in your upper body. Be mindful of the stack of your ribs as you draw your hands back and extend. Trying to keep your hands and your elbows lifting evenly off the floor. It's easy to cheat this and lift your elbows. Almost nobody will lift their hands, but it's easy to try and just lift your elbows. Let's do a few more. And 3 more here. And last one. And we flop. All right, next up, back to our lunge thingies. Stability lunges, let's call them, just to make them annoying. So this time, a little bit different. You're gonna come into a staggered lunge position. You're gonna pick your hip up. You're gonna lunge down. You're gonna drop down, up, and then back up. Again, lift, drop, down, up, back up. This will be more intense. So we're only gonna do 5 on each side. If you're like, why the fuck are we doing 5? Do 2 or 3. Doesn't matter to me. Quality is always going to beat quantity, so start wherever you're at. This is positional, so if this is wearing you out, focus on the position, or just do the thing from the last variation where we were just staying like this. If this feels like something you want to try though, go ahead and follow me. Feet are staggered, pick one hip up just a little bit, coming down. Drop your hip down, bring your hip up, and back. Little lift, drop. Drop your pelvis, lift your pelvis, and up. And when I say drop and lift, I'm talking about the one more on the leg that's extended back behind you. Last time, even though I may have miscounted, lunge, drop, up, up, step forward. Good, other side. Step your other leg back. Back toes are up. Pick the hip up of the leg that's extended back behind you. Dropping down, we'll drop that hip down, up, and come up. Lunge down, drop, 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 lift, and up. Down, drop, lift, coming up. Last one, lunge, drop, lift, up. If that was weird as hell, no worries. If you notice that your knees were cranky or something like that, especially as you lunged more, you can come to that staggered position or even just stand like this. Wherever you're at is totally fine. We just stack on things as we get better at them. So meet yourself where you are, and I'll see you again soon.